But today was also about Donald Trump's economic speech, and we watched a lot of it. And I would dare any of you to listen to his answer on childcare and tell me what the hell he was talking about. It was one of the more incoherent things I've ever heard. He thinks tariffs are going to pay for everything. We know that they're a tax on the consumer. But this really highlights a big problem that everyone is saying, well, Trump is so transparent and Trump's out there and that's all that matters. What matters is the content of what he's saying. And none of it is explainable. This issue, which is a big priority for people, obviously a central plank of what's going on in the Harris campaign, he doesn't have an answer besides tariffs. And J.D. Vance yesterday was talking about just have grandma and grandpa do more, that's some sort of solution for people. He's going to have energy prices, drill, baby, drill, even though we're producing more oil than we ever have before, leading the world, more tax cuts for the rich, and tariffs are the only way that we're going to be paying for it.
I think tariffs are designed to punish countries who subsidize their products.
But they don't work that way. And
no, for specific countries, they do. Look, I know.
You know what?
I know tariffs.
I've dated tariffs.
That was Jessica Tarlov of Fox's The Five ripping into Donald Trump over his incomprehensible answer this morning on childcare. And before we go any further, if you haven't suffered the indignity of listening to Donald Trump outline his plan for childcare if he gets reelected, I was gonna just let the clip play, but I thought that we could do something a little more fun. I'm going to read an unedited transcript of Donald Trump's response. As a reminder, this is his plan to fund childcare if he becomes president. Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down, and we had Senator Marco Rubio and my daughter Ivanka, so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue, but I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, because, look, childcare is, there's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels they're not used to, but they'll get used to very quickly, and it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country, those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country, because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kinds of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions in cash, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's, relatively speaking, not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers that we'll be taking in. We're going to make this an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people, but we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about Make America Great Again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation, so we'll take care of it. Thank you. Very good question. Thank you. If anyone could tell me what that means, I'm all ears. I mean, honestly, to Jessica Tarlov's point, all of those Republicans applauding Donald Trump for going out there and doing dozens of interviews, doing the interview doesn't count for anything if what you are saying in the interviews is completely incomprehensible nonsense. I mean, my God, you do not get points for stringing together a list of words that have zero connection to one another in one long run-on sentence that lasts for 2 straight minutes. And of course, Republicans will ignore this because they want nothing more than for Donald Trump to continue being graded on a curve. Ben Shapiro, for example, logs on and posts stuff like this. When you look at the significance, is Kamala's favorite crutch because she is not a person of significant intelligence or insight. Ah yes, not a person of significant intelligence or insight. Very interesting observation from Ben Shapiro, who's currently supporting this guy.
You take a look at bacon and some of these products, and some people don't eat bacon anymore. And we are going to get the energy prices down. When we get energy down, this was caused by their horrible energy wind. They want wind all over the place. But when it doesn't blow, we have a little problem.
Yeah, that's Trump suggesting that people don't eat bacon anymore because of wind energy, I think. Although who knows, considering the dude's brain is melting and we're left trying to decipher what he's saying in the same way that the children of parents with dementia have to use context clues to figure out what they're trying to say. The only difference is that Donald Trump wants the nuclear codes. The most incredible part of all of this is that Republicans have been the ones wailing about the danger of being led by someone in this country who is in the throes of cognitive decline.
We begin tonight with Joe Biden, like many elderly Americans, suffering from a very steep, obvious cognitive decline. Biden has good days and he has bad days. Unfortunately, this week has not been good at all. Earlier in Virginia Beach, Biden seemed completely, totally lost, dazed, and confused. Not joking, and it gets worse because yesterday Biden was struggling big time also. Now, in case you were wondering, Joe was at an event honoring Black History Month, and as you might imagine, Biden accidentally said something pretty racist.
Looks like he forgot that he is no longer running for president. Should he go back to Delaware?
He does need to go back to Delaware, and mark my words, Joe Biden has no idea who Tim Walz is. He has no idea who's running with Kamala. He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea that World War III is going to happen. I mean, let's just be real. He's in a serious mental decline, because I know people his age that are still very spry and very sharp. And there was a time when, believe it or not, Joe Biden was a sharp politician.
Yeah.
But those days are long gone.
Moving forward, we have the same situation come about where people start talking about how we need to have a conversation about his health and mental health.
And the thing is, look, once this starts, it doesn't stop. You know, when you are 80 years old and you start falling, you don't get better, you don't get stronger. You go into your 80s the way you're going to be, and that's probably the best you're going to be. And so while I'm very sorry for President Biden that he's having this deterioration, I'm more sorry for us that if something happens to him, we're stuck with her. And what if this goes on, Paul? I mean, think about him. This is how he is right now, 6 years out from the point he'd be when he ended his second term, if he were to be reelected. 6 years. Imagine this man who is having trouble stringing sentences together, making sense, knowing who's alive, who's dead, including sometimes himself, falling down, endangering himself around every turn. Like, imagine that person 6 years from now, how he's going to be. And leader of the free world, right? The commander-in-chief with access to the nuclear codes.
And yet, now, the only party led by someone in the throes of cognitive decline is the Republicans. It's their guy who thinks that Nikki Haley was in charge of security at the Capitol on January 6th. It's their guy who thinks that World War II hasn't happened yet. It's their guy who thinks that Jeb Bush got us involved in the Middle East. It's their guy who thinks that Viktor Orban, the leader of Hungary, is the leader of Turkey. Who thinks that Hannibal Lecter was a great American. Who has spent more time talking about sharks and magnets and water pressure and toilets and dead birds and windmills than he ever will dedicate to a single policy proposal. Again, he thinks bacon consumption is down because of the wind. This is not a man who is okay, much less someone who should ever, in any world, be in the Oval Office. Republicans are the ones who warned us about putting someone so aggressively mentally deficient in the White House. It's about time they heeded their own advice. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.